Hey, man.
Oh, nothing much.
You stole my line.
I had that one in my back pocket. That was fun.
How's it going? What's up? That's what you say.
Oh.
What's up?
What's going on?
What's going on, man? Have you ever heard of Lake City quiet pills?
Hold on. Say it slower.
Lake
No, not stop.
City.
Lake City
Quiet
pills. That's what I
pills.
thought you said.
Yeah.
Quiet pills?
Yeah.
All right. That sounds like a community in a really rich neighborhood called Lake City. All
Yeah.
right. And the quiet pills are what the moms pass to each other to get their kids to go to sleep at night. Fiddle Off, right? That's exactly what it is.
It's close.
It's just a neighborhood of parents drugging their kids.
It's pretty close. Before we get too far into this, I think we need to lay a couple ground rules for today. There's going to be some quotes I'm going to read where there's curse words. And I just need you, Jaron, to have your head on a swivel to bleep me when I am about to cuss.
You want me to You want me to go bleep?
Yes.
We're not going to do it in post.
No, I want you to just be ready. And when you think I'm about to cuss, just bleep it.
I'm sorry. I thought you were about to.
Second.
I like this new role. You're bad at reading is the problem, right? So I don't know if you're having trouble reading words or if you need to, if it's a cuss word, you know? We'll kill a guy, but this is where we draw the line.
Yeah, don't drunk drive.
Alex was looking at me and be like, does Jaron believe this? How to deal with your 79-year-old grandpa. If you're unfamiliar, if you're not one of the olds like me and Tim are. Things I learned last night.
All right, so Lake City quiet pills.
Okay.
This is a Reddit mystery that seems to be fairly true. We'll let you decide at the end of this. What do you think? But it begins in 2009.
The verdict is true or untrue?
Yeah, is this a true story or not?
True. That's what I'm going to call right now.
You literally just pulled that out.
Yeah,
you reached into your brain with your hand physically.
Yep.
And held the cube of truth.
The cube of truth. It's been in there the whole time. Yeah, dude. Sometimes I work for the police department. Mm-hmm. They call me in on criminals, and I talk to them. And do you know that's what all lie detector tests are? It's just me in a room with a criminal, pulling out my truth cube.
Pulling your truth cube.
I'm like, you're gonna make me pull out my truth cube.
Liar. So this all began in 2007 when a guy made a Reddit account.
Sorry, I was trying to be ahead of it.
A guy made a Reddit profile, and his username was Religion of Peace.
Oh no, I don't like where this is going already.
And this guy was a very eclectic Redditor. And he became relatively famous in the Reddit world as an old war vet. He said he was 79 years old.
Okay.
Which there's some debate on how old he actually is because sometimes he said he was 70. But
okay,
who knows? Either way, maybe he was just saying, I'm in my 70s. Or maybe it was a typo. The 9 is right next to the 0.
Sure.
So anyways, so he's 79, but he did talk about serving in World War II. And he used some pretty outdated military jargon
lingo
in his everyday conversation. He seemed to be very fed up with a lot of the world.
Are we going to need to be familiar with Reddit culture for this to make sense?
No, I mean, I'll explain anything that we need to understand.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, Reddit is a forum. And so you make users and you post stuff. It's a lot like any social media, kind of.
Sure.
But he was a part of a lot of different subreddits. So subreddits are basically channels or groups, if you will, that you can join.
Center on a topic or a theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can join them. A lot of them are public. Some of them are private. And so he was actually the moderator of a pretty infamous Reddit subreddit that had caused a lot of controversy for the platform called Jailbait, which you might be able to guess the type of images that were shared on this subreddit. And he was a moderator, and he talked about how
he talked about on Reddit in different
Reddit,
forums. He talked about the thread, Jailbait, where they're posting pictures.
Yes,
got it.
And what he would say, this is so creepy. What he would say is, he said, "I'm an old man, and my policy these days is I like to look at the flowers, but I'll never pick them." Very creepy guy, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of makes your skin crawl kind of person, right?
Sure.
Well, he always talked about like these crazy experiences and war and all this stuff like that. And he became sort of a famous figure on Reddit himself. And everybody, I don't want to say looked up to him, or maybe was entertained by him and some of the stuff that he would say. And he was always telling these stories. He went by Religion of Peace, but he also called himself Milo. So we think that his name might have been Milo. Well, then one day in 2009, he made his last Reddit post. And it was a typical post for him, complaining about spam on Reddit and saying Reddit needs to do more to block spammers on the platform.
Sure.
Basically. Later that same day, a new user account was created, and they posted something to the main thread of Reddit. So they have a subreddit called r/all, and that's goes to everybody on Reddit.
Okay.
And he posted, it was titled "The End of Religion of Peace." And he says, "I'm the person who provided Religion of Peace the space for that old guy's image host," which we'll talk about in a second. He said, "Milo died today. He was 79 years old. He died at his desk looking at your site. Milo was a mean old..."
Bleep. Sorry, I really did think we were going to put it in post. I didn't think you were serious.
Mean and honorary. He hooked me up with my first gig when I got out of the army. I didn't like finding him like this. He said, Milo don't have any living relatives and no real friends. And other than his landlady and a few people where he worked, he didn't talk to anyone about much of anything. Me, he just tolerated. As I said, he was mean. I think he used that as a shield to keep people away from him. Milo thought God was some kind of game thought up by some lazy sons of
bleeps. It's plural.
Who didn't want to work every day. So he's going into the fire Monday without a service, just like he wanted. And I'm planning to dump his ashes in the woods in Pennsylvania where he was born. So while I can't put him right there because there's a mall there now.
That would suck, though. The one place that you're like, please scatter my ashes in this beautiful scenery. And it's like, well, it's condominiums now, Grandpa. So when me and your grandma went on a road trip, we pulled off the road and there was this beautiful lakeside area. And it's like, it's a resort now. Mm-hmm. I can still scatter your ashes there, but it's going to get vacuumed up. Please don't scatter me in like a Hilton conference room, you know? That's where he always wanted to be. Oh, man.
Anyways, then he says, I gave the girl next door his raggedy old cat and most of his books, his computers and electronic.
She didn't want it. She's like, please take this.
He's like,
All right. Raggedy old cat.
And then he said his computers and his electronic.
Oh, beep. Sorry. You're bad at reading is the problem, right? So I don't know if you're having trouble reading words or if you need to, like, if it's a cuss word, you know? This is getting difficult. Because you don't realize how dumb you are, you know? Like, sometimes you'll be like, is this because I don't want to bleep and you'll just be like, I'm just having trouble over here.
I just can't read.
I went to private school. You know?
He said he tagged for the disabled vets at the VA. All the rest of the stuff is for the Salvation Army. All those years and everything he owned fits in the trunk of my car. I don't know what else to say. I'll miss him. Miserable.
Beep.
Thanks. And so that was a user named 26. And so everyone was like, oh, Milo died. That's kind of sad. But also like he was a mean person and he was constantly raging on this platform and clearly moderating a pretty nefarious side of the site. So, but anyways.
Darn.
He's gone.
An old man.
Well, there's a couple things in this message that are important though. He talked a little bit about the old guy's image host. Okay. So one thing that Milo or Religion of Peace was constantly promoting on Reddit was a site that he ran called LakecityQuietPills.com. And on that website, what was peculiar is if you landed on LakecityQuietPills.com, it was a blank page. There's nothing there. But if you followed one of the links he gave you, it was like LakecityQuietPills.com /archive / this big thread. Then you would land on the homepage. And the homepage was titled That Old Guy's Image Host. And on there, it was an image host for inappropriate images.
Okay.
And so
And we're talking about illegal images.
Most likely. It's not... most likely. And the expectation for most people originally was that it was set up this way to kind of hide the image host.
Sure.
So you couldn't get there without the unique link.
Without a specific link.
Yeah. Well, after he died, some people started doing some digging on him because they were curious. They said that this all seems a little strange. A lot of people had questions about him, his age, and the stories he told. He said he was on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day, which if his age was right, if he was 79, he would have been 14.
Yeah.
Which is not impossible. There were some people who enlisted at a really young age during World War II, but
weren't on the beaches of Normandy, probably.
Well, probably, because that was very much like a front lines, like we're sending our grunts to that because they knew a lot of people were just going to get offed on the storming. So maybe, but it is unlikely that this guy at 14 was doing that.
Sure.
So a lot of people had questions about him. So they started researching and doing some digging, trying to figure out, okay, what other sites was Religion of Peace on? What else can we piece together from this story?
Yeah.
And here's where things start to get really interesting. So,
because so far, just so where we're at so far, if the story ended here, an old guy who's really creepy online, stores pictures that are most likely illegal pictures, dies, and he's pretty active on Reddit. He dies, and somebody has let the community of Reddit know that this guy is gone. That's where we are so far.
Yes. Okay. Yes. But a lot of people started looking into that user Religion of Peace and also the 26. And so they started finding other accounts with 26 in the name on other forum sites all across the web. And one that was really... that was used a few times with a similar username was a username Angel26 on a website called Fark, which is another very not great website. Okay. With a forum. And on Fark, he had this username.
Bleep. Sorry. Sorry, I was a little late on that one.
He had the username Angel26, and then his little description for his username underneath it on his profile was dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills to lousy
beep
in need of permanent rest since 1968.
In need of permanent rest?
In need of permanent rest since 1968.
So
this guy 26 seems to be, I mean, he mentioned that he provided the space to host that old guy's image host, which was called Lake City Quiet Pills.
Okay.
But the same day that Religion of Peace disappeared, 26 appeared, and 26 was tied to another, allegedly.
But these posts were before that post on Reddit.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, the dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills one. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like our show, make sure to leave a podcast review in whatever platform you use, or if you're on YouTube, drop a comment. If you want to listen to another episode, my favorite right now is Jose Canseco. It's this guy in the MLB who really brought steroids mainstream for the sport and did a lot of other just absolutely insane stuff. And there might be a little bit of aliens in it. So check that episode out. It's one of my favorites. But thanks for being here.
Okay.
And he had also was found on a bunch of other random sites like Yahoo Answers, answering questions on like arts and crafts.
I think about those people sometimes. I think about the people that were answering Quora questions or Yahoo Answers.
Yeah.
And there were people who were just taking that stuff too seriously. You know?
Yeah. I'm curious. One of the things that is most curious to me is people who worked for Cha-Cha. Like, how did
that text?
Yeah, that text thing. Like, how did they have any time?
They were just Googling it.
Yeah, but
they only made like 7 cents a text message, right?
And at the peak, like, they had to be getting tons of questions.
How much were they making per text message? Do we know?
I don't know.
How much was, if you're unfamiliar, if you're not one of the olds like me and Tim are, because apparently that's a thing now.
Before Google was on our phone.
whenever we were young lads, young children, data was very primitive on our phones. And so if you had a question like how many people live in Mount Vernon, Missouri, you would text Cha-Cha, which was 242.
Yeah, 242.
Yeah, and you would text that number and ask your question, and then it would
A couple minutes later.
Variant amount of time. Sometimes immediately, sometimes hours later. You would get a response, which means it's somebody.
Yeah.
Multiple somebodies. Hopefully it wasn't just one person. That's pretty bonkers.
Yeah. So they had, back in 2008, they had 30,000 real human beings that were answering those questions.
How many fake ones? Why'd you say it like that? 30,000 real human beings.
They called them
15
guides.
million fake people.
They called them guides and they paid them 3 cents per answer.
3 cents. So how much do you have to, if it's 3 cents per answer, you got to answer 30 of them to make $1.
Yeah.
Right? So then you got to answer how many per hour? You got to answer 300 of those per hour to make $10? Why would you do this?
I don't know, man. I mean, that was 2008 money.
How many do you think you could answer in an hour?
I mean,
let's try it. How many people? Let's time you. Hey, start a timer somewhere. Start a timer. Ready? How long is a giraffe's neck?
$6 feet.
Okay. How many people live in Mount Vernon, Missouri?
$4,500.
When was basketball invented?
1891.
When was the photo frame invented?
AD 50.
How many, or who's the first president on video? You gotta say when it's a minute. Is it a minute? Are we past a minute?
I didn't start a timer.
Oh, great.
I thought Alex did.
He said 60 seconds. That was a minute? So you can answer 5 in a minute. But imagine doing that for an hour. I guess though. That was right there. That was $1.50.
But that's if they're coming.
Yeah, but there's only 30,000 people, and this thing was everywhere.
That's true. Everybody was constantly.
So
I mean, I remember we would just sit down for hours and just cha-cha questions.
So I'm saying you could just be.
Farming
and if you've
cha-cha answers,
and if you're able to copy paste their message too.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know, man.
It's crazy that Google does that. It's crazy that Google has 30,000
people answering your Googles. Oh, man.
So I don't know how we got off on that, but whatever. Oh, Yahoo Answers. So this 2-6 character.
Yeah, so he's on Yahoo answering questions about arts and crafts and DIY projects also.
Okay. Which makes sense.
Yeah. So anyways, there's these internet sleuths that are digging through the web trying to find traces of Religion of Peace and of 2.6. And what's peculiar is there's a lot of areas where they seem to cross paths. These accounts are relatively unique account names, and they seem to be on the same forums. So wherever 2.6 is, Religion of Peace is, and vice versa. And so they're starting to put together this thread that they're pretty closely connected.
Sure.
If not maybe the same person.
Did I ever tell you about one of the message I got from a guy, maybe a year and a half ago, who was just like, hey, this is a random weird question, but was your username blah, blah, blah on this forum? And I was like, yep. Because he and I, when we were in high school, middle school, I don't know. I used to work, because my first job was a computer repair shop.
Yep.
And I used to do online support on some computer forums and also website forum. I've shown you that forum I was a part of.
Yeah.
People would just be like, how do I do this on this website building thing? And he and I would just answer. But we were like 14. And he just messaged me and was like, your name is very unique. And there's only one other one that I've known, and he went by this on this forum. I'm not saying it because I don't want people to find me.
Yeah, that's fair.
But pretty weird.
That is super spooky.
Well, he wasn't doing it to be weird. He just came across one of my, very viral videos.
Yeah, that's fair.
So they were on the same forums. Is what I just mean. Like,
yes.
I remember that time of my life where I was on forums a lot, and we were on several different of the same ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Because your friend would invite you.
Yeah, that's true. But where this went from like a kind of where this becomes really interesting is when people started looking at the source code of Lake City Quiet Pills.
Oh, interesting.
And if you look anywhere on lakecityquietpills.com, you're going to find a very normal mid-2000s website source code, except if you went to that main page that was blank. Now, in the main page, if you're not familiar with HTML or any coding language for that matter, there are these things called comments where you can throw comments into code. I just took the screenshot from Amazon, and so these green texts start with the caret and the exclamation point. That's a comment, and what that is that's not visible on the front end of the site. No one's going to see what this is. It's for the developers to be able to add comments to explain what they're doing to somebody else who's going to come and work on this code. And so these are explaining what these different features that they're adding and what they are doing below that. And the idea is when you're working on very complex things with lots of different people,
you're basically just leaving notes of here's what this section is.
You're leaving a paper trail. Well, on Lake City Quiet Pills, on the main page, there were these comments that were crazy. So here's the first one that was found.
Okay.
Nothing on there except for this comment. It says, immediate need. 8 to 10 Chinese Korean fluent Korean dialect accent details after contract. 12-week half pay, sequester on refusal. 2 ground types, fluent Farsi, Arabic, French. No papers, no problem. Need formed group 8 to 10, single op, delivery bonus, gentleman's agreement, insurance, immediate need.
What? But in this code, it says, okay, multiple. Is he looking for people who speak those languages?
That's what it sounds like, because it's fluent Korean dialect accent.
Okay.
Details after contact. So yeah, there's something very interesting going. Then single op delivery bonus, and
this is just hidden in the code.
Yeah, so people have started logging onto the Wayback Machine, which is a site where you can look at old.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
If you don't know, you can pull that up and you can look up any website and you can see what it used to look like, and it's constantly screenshotting the internet. And so you can go back, pick a random.
And you can view the code that way.
Yeah, you can view the source code too.
I didn't know that.
And so they're going back, and there's all these posts on this page where they'll pop up and they appear to be like job postings. And so they're saying like, hey, we're looking to hire someone to do this, but there's a bunch of code words. So there's phrases like CCW or W/W. And people have tried to interpret a lot of these codes. And so what a lot of people think is CCW stands for Concealed Carry Weapons Permit. A lot of people think WW stands for wet work. or wants and warrants, which both of them, wet work, is a common used term, at least in novels, but for murder. And then wants and warrants is basically like don't get caught.
Got it. I thought you were saying that what works is a common lingo in murder. In murder.
No.
That means murder.
That means murder. It means you're gonna get your hands wet. And then so these Redditors, these internet sleuths went back and they found July 17th, 2009, which was that date that 2-6 posted that Milo had died.
Okay.
Or Religion of Peace had died. And they found a post that said on the source code of Lake City Quiet Pills, it said, I'm sorry to tell you that Milo died yesterday. He was quiet and calm, not like we all figured. I gave that fat, mangy cat of his to the little girl next door. No services or nothing. You know Milo. I'm taking his ashes back to where his farm was. Close to it, anyway. There's a mall where his place was. So hoist a few for the old man. Remember what he said. Keep with the man who's got your back. And that was it.
And that was in the source code on the day he died.
In the source code on the day he died. Same time that he posted that Reddit post. That 2-6 posted that Reddit post. A post that, it looks like it's written by the same person.
Sure.
Sounds very similar on Lake City Quiet Pills in the source code. A few weeks later, another post popped up in the source code. It said, for those who have asked, I bricked Milo's iron key the same day. All is well. If you don't know what those terms mean, iron key is like a underground slang term basically for a USB like flash drive.
Oh.
And brick means you killed the data. So you wiped all the data from it so that way no one can get any access to what's in there.
Okay.
So everybody started to say, well, there's something weird going on here.
So people were checking it every day at this point.
Yeah, and they were trying to see
what's in our source code.
I've been sneaking this stuff in. Yeah, now you got my head spinning. I need to go check, make sure.
Yeah,
we gotta go clean it before this episode comes out.
What if you go to our source code and there's stuff that you didn't put in there?
Oh gosh, I'd be so spooked. It's possible. It can happen.
What do you mean it can happen? Who can do it?
If somebody can find a backdoor on your site, they can do anything to your site. And so if someone can manage to find a backdoor, they could do stuff like this and add stuff to your source code and make it like an illegal job posting site without you ever knowing, unless you're checking, which I just checked and there's nothing there.
Will you check JaronMyers.com?
Which one? MER?
All right.
So it became clear that Religion of Peace and 2-6 are up to some sketchy stuff.
Sure.
Or at least trying to make people think they're up to some sketchy stuff.
That's probably more accurate.
Well, here's the deal. A lot of people were like, okay, well, what's the deal? Because the website, if you go on the actual side of the website, it was called That Old Guy's Image Host. It never said Lake City Quiet Pills anywhere. But the domain name was like Lake City Quiet Pills. So people looked it up and were trying to figure out what's up with that name. What does that even mean? Well, in Lake City, Iowa, there's an ammunition plant an Olin Winchester ammunition plant, which is the biggest ammunition plant in the nation that supplies the U.S. government with ammunition. And so connecting the dots, Lake City Quiet Pills are bullets. And so dispensing bullets to lousy old
beeps
since 1968 means this guy's shooting people.
That's what he's trying
to say. Yeah. So basically what it came down to is all these internet sleuths think that what's going on here is this is a job posting forum for a ring of assassins who are referencing this site.
It just escalates so fast.
I know. So
is this the craziest part? It looks like it's not.
No. So
I want everyone to know, Tim called me the other night and was like, there's this crazy thing I'm looking into. I don't know if we can do it because it involves some things that are inappropriate.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we could talk about this because of the nature of that old guy's image host and how messed up it is. Because it is messed up.
Yeah. We can, but I'm saying we can say it's wrong and then move on, right?
Yeah. We
like
don't.
but that part's not as much central to the story.
No, it's not.
If it's true that this is an assassin ring.
Yeah. Well, listen to this. So on November 14th, 2009, what is this? Like a few months after Religion of Peace or Milo died.
Yeah.
A new post came into the source code.
Hey, thank you again for listening to this episode. Making sure that you don't miss one in the future, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You'll get an alert when we drop a new episode. And if you want more, if you want something a week early, you want to be part of our Discord, more access to us as creators, you can support this show on Patreon. It helps us go a long way. Nothing that we're doing is possible without our Patreon supporters. If you want more information about that, please text TILLN to 66866. Thank you so much for being here.
So people are still checking this every day.
Well, I think at this point, people are going back in the Wayback Machine. Like, I think people saw that post. They started doing some digging after they figured out Lake City Quiet Pills stood for bullets. After they figured out that they were on all these other forums, they eventually found this source code and they were going backwards.
Sure.
Well, on November 14th, 2009, presumably 2.6 posted in the source code. He said, Milo's will cleared probate. Surprise. This is really tough to read because the spelling and grammar is horrible. Surprise is spelled SIRPRIZE. So that's why I'm stopping so much to try to figure out. But it says, surprise, Milo was loaded. Email Shade if we sent you out between 2005 and 2009. Shade will have checks cut for you. Amount is by how many times, not by pay total. A small share is 3,000 to 4,000. And then a few months later,
amount of times we sent you out?
Yeah.
Okay.
A few months later, he posted, we're having a birthday party for the old man on the 19th. Party starts, listen to this. Party starts at 1500 at the usual. Send your RSVP to Shade. FYI, we're booking a room for 3 days for anyone coming out to the area and overnight for the locals. Come hoist one up for Dutch Milo. And then they go on to list all these details, which I'm actually going to pull up. I believe it's...
I thought you were saying, oh, okay.
So this is one of the postings. So this is, you can see that immediate need one up there at the top.
4 English, French, private security on cruise.
Yeah.
Must be bondable. Immediate need. 12 SA Spanish speaking. No papers required. No records kept.
So there's a bunch of postings here, right? Well, here's another one.
Oh my gosh.
And in here, I'm trying to find the spot. I saw this earlier.
Hotel rooms.
Yeah, we got 38 rooms in the Marriott on 46. Shade has the key cards for locals, pick up at the party, give your travel name to the desk, and that's it. No ID needed since we're covering the bill. Keep the room service under 500, okay? The phones there are not secure. Bus from the hotel leaves, which is spelled Leafs,
at
13:30. Car service vouchers for return trip when you're ready to crash. Don't DUI.
And these are broken down by date as well here.
Yeah, and so you see it's going upwards.
Here's the final for the party. Hotel rooms, $48,000.
Yeah. Okay, so listen to this. So this party, the date and time of this party coincides exactly with the date and time of the assassination of Muhammad al-Mabhouh, which was an officer, a Hamas officer who was killed in his hotel room in Dubai on January 19th, 2010. And in the video, what happens is you see he leaves his hotel, he goes shopping, a bus pulls up, a few individuals come into the hotel, and then they go up to where his room is. They somehow enter his room. All of them are covering their heads so you can't identify them. go into the hotel room, and then Mahmoud comes back, goes up to his room, and then those individuals leave his room, and he's later found dead in his room. Same date, same time. And then
How many people?
there's a few individuals.
Sure.
It wasn't like it seems like it was the same number or whatever. So the theory is that this birthday party was code for an actual hit that they were hiring for. And then you started reading, they had the total bill for the party, which doesn't sound like a bill for a party. It says, here's the final for the party. Hotel rooms, $48,300. Limo, $6,000. Bus, $560. Bar bill, $18,000. Food, $8,000. Dancers, $8,000. Miscellaneous tips, $850. Miscellaneous expenses, $2,800. Med supplies, $180. Fat Tommy and Stu are okay too. Total, $94,000. You all did Dutch Milo proud. Thanks.
Okay.
Even in the craziest of circumstances, this size of a party it's a lot.
Sure.
And to have it happen at the same time, and to have at least some similar, like we know that a bus pulls up and dropped off a few people.
Okay.
We know that were there others in the hotel that were booking rooms. And when you look at the original post, it's peculiar the way they listed it, because they were saying don't, or the phone lines are not secure.
Right.
Use your travel name at the desk. Don't DUI. These are a lot of things that are kind of strange things to tell a bunch of adults that are
So
coming to
on
a
the
party.
19th, on January 19th, someone is assassinated.
Yeah. And that's the same day of this party.
Party starts at 1500 as at the usual. Send your RSVP to Shade. Okay.
And so the theory is that this pretty high profile assassination,
Do you think this is in Dubai?
was pulled by them. Yeah. And so the theory is that they're using a lot of code here because they don't want anyone to be able to understand what's happening. So I don't know what that breaks down to show that it's actually Dubai. But in theory, what happened here was they pulled one of their most high profile hits, and some people linked it back to them. Here's what's really interesting. The credit cards used on a block of rooms purchased in the hotel that night were registered under account from a city in, hold on, let me double check this to make sure I give the right one. I can't find the exact name of the city, but it was one town over from the Lake City ammunition plant
In Iowa?
in Iowa. So a lot of,
Used at the hotel in Dubai.
at the time of this assassination.
Okay. For how many rooms?
I don't know how many rooms. I don't have that exact
I'm saying
number.
that if they're booking, we got 38 rooms
Yeah.
in the Marriott
Yeah.
on 46.
Yeah. Which my guess is those
38,
numbers
46.
and Marriott even are probably code.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my guess.
Sure.
But I don't know. So after this happens, the site gets encrypted. So these messages,
You know, as messed up as these people are, if they are assassins, I do like that they're passionate about anti-drunk driving, though. You know, don't DUI with like 5 exclamation points.
well, the theory is that's also a code. DUI is also some other code word for something.
Yeah. Well, my theory is that DUI is code for driving under the influence. You got Moms Against Drunk Driving. You got AADD, which is Assassins Against Drunk Driving. We'll kill a guy, but this is where we draw the line.
Yeah, don't drunk drive.
Yeah.
So this was a very publicized assassination. They never found who did it, who
Sure.
perpetrated it. And when these Redditors started saying that they think it was the Lake City Quiet Pills people,
Yeah.
all of a sudden the source code became encrypted. So you could still go on and access it, but it was not written like that. It was encrypted.
Yeah, I was wondering if, because this 2-6 person can probably obviously see that these threads are starting about the source code.
For sure.
And it's like,
And then the Redditors started trying to decrypt it, and they were posting about it, and then they double crypt. So they encrypted it and then encrypted the encryption. And so it became the sort of thing where it's like, you're never going to figure out what this said. A few days later, Lake City Quiet Pills got taken down. So
Website just gone.
yeah. So it's pretty highly likely that they just moved this somewhere else.
Sure.
But the whole scenario seems like there's one of two things going on. This is an assassin ring that had that were trying to hide in plain sight. They were using something that they said, hey, this is a weird website that most people aren't going to try to access. But even if they do, like, we're in this other subset of the site where most people aren't going to access it, and we can hide all of our stuff here. And they were a part of this big high-profile assassination. Some people caught them, and then they went further into hiding.
Further hiding, yeah.
The other possibility is that this was some big hoax to generate some traffic to LakeCityQuietPills.com for that old guy's image host.
Okay.
Because if you look back on Religion of Peace's posts early in the process, he began developing this in like 2001, and he was posting on Vark all the time talking about this project, and it took him years to accomplish it and put it live, and he really wanted it to grow, but it only ever got about 1,000 users, which is a lot. But the issue with that theory is that him devising this weird
this whole
theory hoax
crazy
thing,
stuff.
It's pretty far-fetched. It's kind of like the Watcher thing. Like, it's a really far-fetched way to try to drum up
a few more users on your website.
Yeah, some activity on your website. And even those users aren't using your website for what you built it for. But the linchpin in that is that eventually they took the site down. And so if this was being used to drum up traffic,
then more traffic would have been good.
Yeah, then they would have let it grow and leave it up, but they took it down when more people started looking at it.
Interesting.
So at the end of the day, we don't know exactly what's going on with Lake City Quiet Pills. It does kind of seem like this was some weird, dark underground, like Assassin's Ring. There has been a lot of people who have tried.
Alex was looking straight at me when I looked over. Alex was looking at me to be like, does Jaron believe this?
And
I looked over and Alex was like, please don't. Like, he's giving me those eyes where he's like, come on, talk some sense in here.
Talk some sense. Do it. Try it.
Yeah. They're not assassins, Tim.
I think they're assassins.
It's just idiot teenagers who figured out how to write in HTML. And they were like, someday we're going to be the subject of a podcast. And they're going to listen to this and they're going to giggle. All right.
They're like, you know what? Someday someone's going to move into this house and they're going to be finishing the basement. They're going to open up the walls.
Yeah, they should
have
check that house's source code.
Yeah, maybe. That's possible.
Yeah.
That's possible.
We've encrypted our source code.
Here's what's interesting. Since all this blew up, another group of internet sleuths have followed the paper trail and done like all that stuff that the Catfish does.
Yeah.
To track down the ownership of all these domains.
Right.
And what's interesting is Lake City Quiet Pills was purchased from a domain host called Crystal Lakes, which is not a thing, at least not anymore, and not a domain host anymore.
Right.
But if you go back in the Wayback Machine, it was a landing page where they did do domain hosting.
Okay.
But also in the footer of this landing page, it was political rants from a guy named Milo. And so it seems like Milo bought this domain from himself and from a Crystal Lake site that he would have run himself, and he used it to put all his political rants before he found Reddit.
I love that somewhere out there was just some guy who was like, the internet's new. I can build a website. I must use this to yell.
Well, here's the thing: it was a business website. Like it was literally, you would look on it. It was a normal business website
And
selling
just at the very
websites.
bottom, he's just got
at the
his
very
rants.
bottom, here's my political rants.
Yeah, if you go to my website, JaronMyers.com, it's got my tour dates, merchandise, and at the very bottom there's a little link that just says rants. And you can click that, and I just go off, man. I don't even hold back. I don't even use punctuation. It slows me down.
Here's my safe place to yell.
All caps, no punctuation.
Here's what's interesting about this, though, is on Crystal Lakes, you can check domain verification, and it actually belongs to a guy named Mike. And the the accounts tied to 2-6 also belong to a guy named Mike. And so these sleuths seem to have tied together. It's a Mike, I think, W something at like Gmail, something like that. So they seem to have tied together that there's some guy named Mike who's playing the role of Religion of Peace and also playing the role of 2-6. And maybe piecing together this assassin ring or maybe making it all up. The probably biggest point of maybe that none of this is real is this email address has an account on Goodreads. And on Goodreads, there's a bunch of books
about arts and crafts. Hold on. All right, because he answers a lot of Yahoo answers about that.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of books about old war.
Men. How to deal with your 79-year-old grandpa.
How to understand what your 79-year-old grandpa says. Translating a 79-year-old grandpa.
Unencrypting the language of a 79-year-old old man. Old war books.
Old war
that he
books.
might be getting started. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like if he's lying about a bunch of. So, for example, there was a guy from my high school who was very. You know how every small town apparently just has a pathological liar. I didn't know every small town
I think every
had
town
one.
has a lot of pathological.
Well, yeah. But I mean, like every small town has one.
Yeah,
that
they
is
have
like
their liar.
their
The
local liar. Yeah. And ours told us all these fantastic stories of crossing the ocean into Africa, and he had a shark tooth necklace and he got it from a real shark. You know, like just all these crazy things.
Yeah.
But one of the things he always said was that he's an assassin.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine if there's somebody who spends their day online making up all these fantastic war stories,
Yeah.
they probably are making up the idea of an assassin ring as well.
Maybe. And probably the most.
But they would broadcast that. That's the only thing that holds me back from it is like if he's making that up, he would have broadcasted that. The fact that it was hidden.
Yeah, it is very odd to do something like this so underground because so few people are going to engage with it.
Right. Unless you're also creating the accounts that like found it.
Yeah, that is possible, I suppose. But also on his Goodreads account was a bunch of books about assassins. One literally titled Wet Work. So some people think that this is just a guy
Are
who's
people
just...
writing books on how to assassin people?
I think they're novels, like a novel story about, like a love story about an assassin, an assassinee. That's
They're like,
someone
it's
that
just
assassinate. They
called-
fall in love with the person they're supposed to assassinate.
They're just putting books out there called How to Kill People. Or, I don't know, If I Did It. That was a good joke.
That was. Yeah, so
we don't have to leave that in, though. We could, that's fine. I'm more afraid of O.J. Simpson than I am of this ring of assassins.
well, I don't know. Maybe OJ's one of them.
Go to his website. Check his source code. Oh, yeah. No, don't actually do that.
I'm already there.
I'm saying, anyway.
So, I mean, here's the thing.
I already said it was true, so it's got to be.
It's gotta be. Yeah, you pulled it out of your brain cube. Yeah, it's. I don't know. Like,
Is that all there is about it?
there's some things that make it seem like it's probably
Assassins.
fake. But the timing of that big high profile assassination, the connection to the credit cards,
Yeah.
it's pretty peculiar that that's a coincidence. Is it possible that it is?
Sure.
But is it possible that this was the group that pulled that off? Sure.
Well, if you check our source code
Yeah.
in big, bold letters at the top, it just says,
Fiddle.
bleep.
Hey, thanks for watching Things I Learned Last Night. If you like this episode, you can watch more right here, or you can watch some highlights. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It helps us out a lot. Also, leave a comment below, and we'll see you next week.